I joined, I wasn't like, I joined the Black Panther Movement. And so I bought regularly the Black Panthers newsletter, um, and I learned a lot about my legal rights because they always had articles on what you should do in different situations, and you have a right to do this or that or the other, which came in handy. And when I was at Michigan State, I worked on the breakfast program that the Black Panthers started, going into poor neighborhoods and serving breakfast. And so I would do that. In the mornings, I would go into East Lansing, into this really poor black neighborhood, and help to serve breakfast at the school, at the elementary school. And, there were Panther members, the real members who wore the black, uniform and all of that. So I was a Panther supporter. I wasn't a Black Panther. But as I was a Panther supporter, I was on a watch list. I was told by a neighbor that lived across the street from me when I was in California, who was he was a retired CIA agent. And one day I was talking to him, and he said, you're on a watch list because of your involvement with the Black Panthers. And I was like, how do you know I was involved with the Black Panthers? He said, oh, I like you. He called me Little Dee Dee because he was really tall. And he said, I like you. And so I just went and did some research on you. I'm not so sure about your husband, but I like you. And so it was like one of the first things that came up about you, that you were on this watch list. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I've had some interesting experiences. One of my dearest girlfriends got involved with a man who was an international drug dealer, and I didn't know it. And she and like two other women were his wives, and so they shared this man. And I met him once, and he was charming, but I've met pimps and hustlers and all kinds of stuff. I grew up knowing all of that stuff, and so it didn't make me any difference that he was a dealer. It wasn't my thing, but if my girlfriend wanted to be in that, and he was handsome, and so I was like, okay. And they had a really nice house, and but he got busted, and he had my phone number in his address book, and so I was followed by the FBI going to Flint from Los Angeles, and I had to change planes in Detroit, and I was pregnant with my my second daughter. It was in '78, and they came to me, and they wanted to search my purse, and I was sitting in an area, and there was nobody in there, and of the terminal in Detroit, and I was reading a book, and these two, they were stereotypical FBI. Dark suit, white shirt, dark tie, blonde hair, crew cut, muscular. And I'd seen them get on the plane in LA, and I was like, they look like FBI agents to me, because I watch stuff I love that kind of stuff, and Secret Service and, espionage and all of that. And so they asked me if they could look at my purse, and they pulled out these badges and they just flashed them, bloop. And so they said, we're with the FBI, and we would like to, go through your purse. And I said, no, you can't go through my purse. I said, do you have a search warrant? And that's stuff that I'd learned from reading the Black Panther newsletters. And I said, if you don't have a search warrant, you cannot go through my purse. And I said, and furthermore, how do I know you're FBI agents? You just flash these badges. Can I see them again? And they said, we don't have to show them to you again. And I said, well, then I don't have to let you go through my purse. And they said, well, we've already been through your baggage. And I said, may I ask what you're looking for? Well, we have, a suspicion that you are connected with this drug dealer. And they said the guy's name. And I said, no, that was a friend of mine. And she's now in prison. And I said, but I'm not connected. He was the boyfriend of my friend. And, well, we think that you are smuggling drugs. You're part of his drug smuggling ring. And I said, oh, so you have a description of a woman that's part of the drug smuggling ring who's 6 months pregnant and who looks like me. Yeah. And so, I told them, I said, listen, you can leave now, or if you don't, I'm going to scream rape. I'll scream rape, because it was just the two of them and me. And they were like, oh, you think you know your rights. I said, no, I know my rights. So I'm going to count to 3, and if you're not gone, I'm going to scream. And I can scream, believe me, I can scream. And so they walked away. And they said, well, we're going to follow you to Flint. I said, well, have a good time. So when I got to my parents' home in Flint, they had rented a car. My mother had come to pick me up, and they sat out in front of my house. And I went out, and I asked them, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and they were sitting there. I said, guys, you're really wasting your time. I don't smuggle drugs, but if you'd like a coffee, since you're going to be sitting here, I can go make you a coffee. And, I'd knocked on the window, and they'd roll down the window. It was like out of a movie. And then they went away. So I've had some wild experiences.